This, according to CIRP, is the spread of iPhone sales from 2024, and this is the spread from 2025. Immediately you notice a couple of things. Fewer people this year are buying the previous generation, and Pro models are significantly less popular too. But why is this? Well, that's what I'm going to investigate today. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, and this is the iPhone 16 Pro Max, one of those Pro models that's less popular this year, and it really felt like Apple made some wrong turns this time around. I think that all stems from the fact that while sure, other companies like Google and Samsung generally rested this generation, especially when it came to hardware and software innovation over the generation that came before, they were already ahead of Apple in the first place, so there really wasn't too much work to do. Apple has been behind in a few key areas this year, actually for a while if we're totally honest, and that fact seems to have caught up with them with regards to sales. Firstly, we have to talk about this. Camera control. Yeah, it was a mistake. It's poorly placed, it's awkward to use, and quite frankly, it feels like a half-baked afterthought to stuff into the new model because this year's version versus last year's Pro and Pro Max feel almost identical otherwise. I've been quite opinionated about camera control throughout 2025 because I truly believe that it wasn't in the plans to start with, and despite perhaps being something thought up to convince and entice people to buy the new phone, it doesn't seem to have worked whatsoever based on the data. I have completely turned mine off in the settings. Then there's the actual hardware deficit, or multiple actually. The most obvious is the long lens in the triple camera cluster, because sure, on the surface, this 5x optical zoom is the same as the 5x optical zoom you'll find in the S25 Ultra and the Pixel Pro XL, right? Well, not the case. Not only is it low in resolution, as some of you will already know by now, but it's a considerably smaller sensor than what you'll find in the Pixel and the Samsung at the same time. Believe it or not, the sensor behind the 5x on here is smaller than the selfie camera you'll find in the OnePlus 13. Not only are 5x shots straight up just not as good as those from a Galaxy Ultra or Pixel Pro, but the ability to crop further in, which a lot of people do, to sort of 10 or even 15 times, is more obvious with those cameras versus the iPhone. It's clearer, and that is a real shame. Rumours actually point to a new sensor being used in the 17 Pro series this year behind that long lens, which would finally bring it up to speed with the rest of the cameras. Which is good because actually the rest of the iPhone's cameras are really decent. Sure, maybe not the best in any smartphone ever made ever, but especially with those photographic styles, the ability to add life and character back into what would normally be quite a clinical smartphone photo, it's been a joy to use for me, and a lot of people seem to have fun with this online. The main sensor, the 1x, which is a 48 megapixel on a 1/1.28 inch platform, is actually really competitive and takes some great pictures. And since the ultra wide was recently improved too, we just need to see that balance go across to the long lens too. Because that's something that was really good, the balance between the three cameras with the likes of the iPhone 11 Pro, and well, since then it's kind of fallen behind. It's time to catch up. We also can't gloss over the software with this thing, the AI, the Apple Intelligence, because it's a mixed bag, to put it politely. Announced what feels like forever ago, yet the actual features have dripped and dropped over time. It feels like another half-baked approach. We have visual intelligence, image playground, live translation, and AI shortcuts that all tap into that Apple Intelligence. Yeah, we are certainly ahead of where we were 14 months ago when this stuff was announced, but its deployment has been very much a learning experience for Apple. And whilst AI has been a big focus, particularly in the advertising of Samsung and Google, it feels like an afterthought here, and I'm just not sure that's correct. iOS 26 itself, after the initial controversy and division over the community, has settled in, now on beta 7, as a really decent design overhaul that no doubt will help sell the next version of the iPhone, because it does look new. It looks like a totally different software, like that jump from iOS 6 to iOS 7 all those years ago. Whether you like liquid glass or not, it does look fresh, and I've quite enjoyed it in the couple of months that I've been running the beta on my 16 Pro Max. But despite that nice new coat of paint, it just doesn't feel as complete or cohesive compared to the latest versions of One UI and Pixel Experience. And that's just not good enough for this product and the company who still likely has the biggest reputation and legacy of all three. Alright, I have to address this as well. Flat size plus a seriously big phone, I mean this is ultra class size, just doesn't work ergonomically. Like, there's nothing you can explain to me or tell me that will convince me otherwise. This phone feels cumbersome. It is heavier than a Galaxy Ultra, it is just chonky. And with a case, it's not so bad because it does round out those sides, but it also adds dimension. Yeah, I'm not sure about this one, Chief. Though I must say, the screen, the performance, the battery life on here, I have zero problems with any of that stuff. And I guess that has been the case for the iPhone for a couple of years already. It's kind of hard to mess this up unless you're Google developing Tensor. And in these areas, Apple isn't significantly behind like it is in other areas. It's doing a decent job, and though I certainly don't take full advantage of the power on tap here, everything is buttery smooth. It's one of the areas that Apple, if it does maintain what it's doing, will have no problem with going forward, which I think is really interesting and surprising given that the liquid glass seems to be quite heavy on distortion and image manipulation going on in animations, and the glass items, when elements are behind them, have a completely different look. So I'm hoping that when the full version of this software comes out and it's not in beta anymore, it doesn't necessarily really terribly impact the performance of earlier models that weren't designed to run iOS 26. Actually, the battery life situation is impressive because this phone is able to bang on the door of a lot of Android smartphones that have significantly bigger batteries than it. This only has a 4685 mAh cell, which is quite interesting given just how big and heavy it is. Though the charging, as I will continue to moan about until it gets changed, is just not that quick. It charges the battery to 50% in the same time that the OnePlus 12 charges its 1000 mAh bigger battery to 100%. It's just a different planet. I typically say right around now that this isn't a bad phone, but it has its problems. And to be honest, I know plenty of iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max owners personally who do enjoy their phone and don't really have any major complaints with it. But to me, this just isn't a good phone, or at least for the money. It's like buying yesterday's tech for today's price, and that's just something that doesn't quite sit right with me. Yeah, when I use a Galaxy Ultra or a Pro XL or even a Galaxy Edge, going back to the iPhone feels like a step down. It feels like I'm moving into last generation's phone, and that is something that needs to be addressed this year. Because the data shows that this isn't just a me thing. The iPhone 16 Pro series just wasn't as popular. People found less of a reason to buy them, and if the 17 Pro is a continuation of this, I have to ask, when is it going to improve? What were your thoughts on the iPhone 16 Pro series this year, guys? Were you just not quite as impressed as you should have been, kind of like me? Do you think this was the best phone of the last year? I highly doubt that one. The new iPhones look interesting. I just hope there's some kind of movement or progression, because if not, it's a tap-in for Google and Samsung this generation. I've used this 16 Pro Max since it came out as my work phone. My boss gave it to me, and honestly, it has felt no real different to the 15 Pro Max that I used the year before. Anyway, whilst you're down there debating in the comments, as I'm sure you are, I've just started a flame war. Be sure to hit like if you enjoyed today's content, and of course subscribe to never miss another upload, including coverage of the iPhone 17 Pro series that we will have coming up when that phone gets released. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I will catch you later. Cheers.